All right, well, why don't we, what do you think, Tom? Should we get started?
Yeah, I think we have enough people, and if folks come on in, I can just let them in quietly.
Okay, sounds good. So, Tom, why don't you tell us first about some of the technicalities of
Well, do you want to
the
introduce
meeting?
the meetup itself, the fact that this is the part two, or do you want me
That's
to
a
do
good.
that?
Why don't you start, and then I'll go from there.
Okay, fantastic. Hey, folks, thanks for joining us for a part two of our IT efficiency in higher ed meetup. We are brought to you, folks, or at least, excuse me, we are currently being introduced by Nuno Kudo. We also have on the call with us Timothy Winders and Miloš Topić to continue our conversation from last time. Last time we talked about what was it? A couple items, but this time we're talking about personnel, automation, and audit awareness. So I believe Nuno, you wanted me to talk about some of the technical aspects of this call. As always, we usually have people muted as they join, but you folks are free to unmute yourself and join the conversation as you feel appropriate. We'll also be monitoring chat. So if anyone has anything they want to say, but they don't necessarily want to interrupt, you can just leave it in chat and we'll bring you into the conversation when we find a moment to do so. So we also will be sending out a survey, a short questionnaire after the meetup, as well as a recording of the call for everyone who attended. So we do really appreciate everyone for joining. And otherwise, I think Nuno can introduce himself and start off the call. Unless he might be frozen a little bit. That's all right. Technical issues happen. And folks, this is a very informal gathering, as you can probably tell. Wow. Oh, is he back? Nuno?
I'm back.
Perfect.
I'm back. All right. Well, thank you, Tom, for that. Once again, welcome everyone to the conversation. We have been having these conversations now for several years. The meetup, the higher ed professionals meetup, I think started back in 2015 or 2016. At first, we were, as most meetups are, in person, and then with COVID, we moved to online and sort of worked well. So we've remained online, at least for the foreseeable future. Our goal is really to support the higher ed community. We have had many CIOs join, and this particular meetup is certainly also focused on CIOs. We're here to help, to make connections. We're here to bring together people around topics that are of interest. If you have any particular pain points and you want other CIOs to come together and can give you some advice, we're happy to do that. If you want us to connect you with someone else, whether it's in the meeting or someone on that network, we're happy to do that. We have some members of the committee here today. Michael, if you want to just say hello, just wave. There's Michael. Michael is one of the members of the meetup committee. And there's James. And Tom is already spoken. He's part of the committee. And Steve, you're kind of in the committee too, right? Sort of. You can wave. All right. So as Tom mentioned, we're going to talk about efficiency. This is part two of the conversation. I'm just going to share some slides really quickly because we really want to get into the conversation. And I'll introduce our panelists. Give me just 1 second. Hopefully you can see the screen here. Excuse me for a second. Let me just minimize this here. So what we talked last time about the environment in terms of efficiencies, making sure that you know exactly what you have. Obviously, what's the current state? For example, enterprise architecture, as well as other documentation. But we can share the link to the last meetup for you to look at that. I won't spend too much time on that. We also talked about communication and making sure that everyone in the organization is aligned with not just the organization's goals, the organization strategies, but with the IT strategies. Today, I think we're going to spend some time, considerable amount of time, on skill set and personnel. On Obviously, there's a huge skills gap. There's a huge difficulty in finding the right people. Everyone, not just higher ed, is having those sorts of difficulties. So, we would love to have, Timothy is going to share his thoughts. Miloš is going to share his thoughts as panelists. But we would love to hear from the rest of you. What are you doing? What's working? What's not working? So that others can possibly learn from some of the lessons you've learned. We hopefully will have some time to talk about automation, because that has been identified as a critical factor for organizations that are IT organizations in higher ed that are really world class. And we can talk about what that means. And if we have time, just always acting as if you're going to be audited, being ready for that forces one to have a certain level of discipline that usually turns into, better performance and better responsiveness and better security, to say the least. So without further ado, let me just move over to stop my screen sharing, if I can figure out how to do that.
I'll allow it.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. There we go. So why don't we get right into the conversation? I will ask a question, and then if you, gentlemen, Miloš and Tim, wouldn't mind just introducing yourselves as before you answer the first question. So, Miloš, how do you do it? What's been your approach to finding the right people, retaining them, recruiting them? What are some of the challenges? What hasn't worked? What are some of the myths that are out there that really haven't worked? What are your thoughts?
So, Miloš Topić, Vice President for IT and Chief Digital Officer at Grand Valley State University in West Michigan. Been here for a little over a year, 14, 15 months. Before that, in Jersey at 2 different universities for 22 years. It's generally starts with treating people the way you want to be treated, understanding their needs, and trying not to paint everybody with the same brush. Compensation is important, but it's not the only thing. And it's not the most dominant effect, because if it is, none of us would be in higher ed, right? I'm sure we've all had 2x or 3x offers from some of the major Fortune 100 companies that we work with as clients to come and join and run their higher ed verticals. Now, what's really interesting is investing in people, providing them flexibility and support that they need, and understanding what drives and motivates them. To someone, it's a title, position, money, corner office, expense account, authority over a team or a number of teams to lead a department or two. And to others, it's flexibility. They don't want to work 9 to 5, or they're not able to work 9 to 5, or they can't come to the office 5 days a week. And this was even before the pandemic, right? And then lastly, and I'll just make this intro very brief, the lastly is once you find rock stars and people you truly believe in and people who you see have unlimited potential, look for ways to convince them to join you and come along. And interestingly enough, Mr. Delgado on this screen is my associate vice president who joined me at Grand Valley, also from Jersey, about 3 months ago. He earned it all on his own credits and merits and went through the search process. But when he was presented to me as one of the top 2 finalists, the decision was easy, right? Someone I've worked with for years at a different organization who's done amazing work. So invest in people, take risks on them, and then make sure you're accountable, make sure you're available, and you make sure you have that communication be multi-directional and consistently ongoing, because priorities will change. People get married, people get older, somebody gets sick, they need to take care of somebody else. Their priorities change. So be plugged into the culture of your people, because at the end of the day, people come first and they matter the most.
Thanks, Miloš. Very insightful. Tim, same question. How do you do it? How do you retain and recruit and keep people happy?
Sure. Tim Winders, my pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm at Purdue University Northwest. I'm the Vice-Chancellor for Information Services. I have been in this role for 6 years, and at my previous institution in Texas, I was there for 20 years. So it sounds like Miloš and I have about the same duration, 25, 26 years or so in higher education leadership. A lot of what we'll talk about today bleeds over from last month's conversation around communication, around who you are, what type of leader you're going to be. And so let's start with the retention part, because I think that's really important. A lot of it will come down to you individually as a leader and the culture that you create. So I like to have people around me that I like to be with. And so the first thing that I did when I started this role is start to help, mentor everybody, right? So not just those direct reports, but everybody across the board. And so always asking, what's your next step? What are your career goals? How can I help you be successful? Okay. I've never asked somebody, what can you do to make me look good? Right. My job is to make sure that you are successful in your job. So if you're successful, then we're successful as an institution and as an organization. So removing roadblocks, inspiring confidence, being transparent with everybody, showing that I'm human, making sure that people see my faults, and when I make a mistake, step up and improve it. And that it's okay to constantly be improving. And what was appropriate to do and act and behave 20 years ago, we would never talk about or never do today. And so show that, I can grow and expect you to grow as well. So creating that culture of belonging is so important. Related to professional development, one of the first things that I did here was make sure that we had professional development budget that was there and available, and that the staff knew that professional development dollars were available. Because in the past, it was always taboo to talk about how do I get training, how do I do this. It was like, well, we never have any money. Well, there's money there if it's important. And so investing in your staff is extremely important. And so we often will invest in staff and they'll move on somewhere else. And if they're moving on for the right reasons, and those right reasons for me are they're moving up in their job, and it's a promotion that we don't have available here. They're moving to a different or bigger organization, or taking the next step in their career. Then we celebrate those advancements for individuals and make sure that everybody knows it. And those that leave that we wanted to retain, but they just take a side job, they just move laterally somewhere else or just get out, then we really dig deep to understand what went wrong here. How did we screw up on this? And share that, those findings across the board. What's hard is, on morale is when you are intentionally either downsizing or getting rid of the staff that don't fit. And then you can't really talk about that. We can't talk about those type of personnel issues. And so when staff see somebody go that they really liked, but as a leader, they were an underperformer, they didn't quite fit, they didn't fit the culture, it was good for them to move on, but you can't really talk about why with the staff. That makes for an interesting conversation. As we move to recruiting, in today's environment, that's a lot harder. And I really look forward to some of the questions that might drive some of this conversation. Before COVID, it was, for me, a lot easier, right? Because we could offer incentives that were pretty rare to see in the industry. For example, we had remote work already here in my organization. It wasn't pervasive across the institution, but within IS, we had remote work. We also, whether it was full-time, had a couple of people that we hired from out of state, or if it was just, you work from home one day a week. That was pre-pandemic. That was just the norm. And so creating that environment was a little bit unique. And so we had an opportunity to do that. It also is really helpful if you have control of your own budget. Right? So I've been in different organizations where the budgets work differently. And if you as an IT leader have to keep going to somebody else asking for money to be able to hire people or give raises or have retention bonuses, that gets old really fast. But if you're in charge of that budget and you can make those decisions autonomously, it makes a big difference. And that's part of the thing about having that seat at the table, is why it's so important, because generally that means you control your own budget. So in today's world, recruiting new people where the bar to enter is remote work, hire from anywhere, pay more than anybody else. We're going to give you all these kind of benefits. Boy, it's hard today. And so I'm very interested in hearing about other people's strategy around recruiting in today's environment.
Thanks, Tim. And to that point, I mean, we'd love to hear from what other CIOs are doing in that area. Like what's working, what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you. Anyone like to volunteer any thoughts, any advice? No worries.
Apparently nothing works for anybody. So we're all on the same boat. And for at risk of just liking to hear myself talk, we're hearing this across the country, across industries, is the search for talent is pervasive, and it is very, very difficult. And then, of course, as we continue to expand and try to dig into our equity initiatives, it makes it even a bigger challenge. I had a discussion with my DevOps team recently, and there's this dichotomy we have around only hiring the old white guy and saying, but I need somebody that's got experience in these legacy technologies. And how do you balance that and create not just a diverse applicant pool, but a really diverse workforce, because it brings so many advantages to the institution, while at the same time saying, yeah, but we can't keep the lights running with the staff that we have right now. It's an interesting conversation.
Yeah. Go ahead, Steve. I think you wanted to say something. Oh, can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
How's that?
There you go. We can hear you.
There's like 4 microphones on the machine. I had to figure out which one. All the IT guy. Something that Tim said that I thought was important, and something I've been trying to do here is, and anybody who has any sort of staff, you have staff that are clearly in different portions of their career and different milestones in their life. And sort of one of the things I've always done is sort of recognize, and I think you mentioned is like, have that one-on-one conversation with especially your more junior staff, especially some of your key players that are more junior, and have the clear conversation about where you want to be in 5 years and how can I help you get there. Oh, by the way, it's most likely not here, but while you're here and I want you here for 2, 3, or whatever it is in front of it, I can give you a path that's going to get you to the next thing. And that's been worked very well for me, both here and in prior places, just retaining that. One of the other stupid things, and I use stupid things that we do, and we don't have a policy around it, but I have budget to do it, is, again, especially for your junior staff, is I will pay for any certification exam, right? And I will pay for it twice. If you fail it twice, you got to pay for it your third. And I have had people, especially during COVID, sort of run with that. And, at the end of, some people have done their Security Plus and Network Plus, and I have CSSP, and, just a number of different things that people have done that is a good way to sort of indicate to them that you care about their career. the flip side, and this is a reality that some of us are probably experiencing right now. In the past 3 days, I've had 2 key players basically come to my office and say that they have offers, one for 50% more than he's making right now. I can't even come close to that. And so the question then becomes, you know, how do we replace some of this talent? And again, and I think, Tim, you said it, it's like, these are not, I would be really disappointed if this person was doing a lateral to another organization, you know, just to make a lot more money. But in this particular case, it's something that he's worked towards. It's something that's going to be more responsibility. It's at a good organization, and it's a lot more money, and it's good for him and his family. You know, congratulations. But now I have the problem how I'm going to backfill that. And that backfill is not going to be doable within the current budget. And I think, Tim, you mentioned budget, and that's one of the things that we're toying with some of our vacancies, is doing a swap. You know, sort of internally we have a budget, but you know, and a headcount sort of an organizational model. But you know, are we going to start doing, you know, filling 2 positions with the budget from the 3 that are vacant, kind of thing? And then therefore, and then the college here has a pretty strong track record on making sure pay equity is applied to people that are already here. And so we've already had to do some adjustments as we hire some new people in, especially at the lower positions, on adjusting the pay of some of the people who have been here longer. And that's just, you know, if we're going to keep people, those are the kinds of things that we have to be serious about. So those are my 2 cents.
Yeah, I love what you said, Steve, about everything, but especially around the really truly caring about that person, which I think Miloš and Tim also mentioned, even if that means supporting them as they eventually want to go out the door, right? Helping them to be in a position where they can reach their long-term goals, even if that means they're going to reach those goals somewhere else. I mean, I think that really comes across like you care. So, I mean, certainly I would be impressed with that if someone did that to me. But
I've also done the flip side. There's one guy I've said to, if you're here in 2 years, I'm going to slap you upside the head, because I don't have a position that he's trying to go towards. And so he needs to figure out, you know, a career path for himself that we can be a part of. But at some point, it's like his target is not here, because he's not destined to be. And I have to say this very carefully, because I think there are 2 people on the call who have at least worked in higher ed 25 years. I've been in higher ed, I think, 5 years, and I see how the higher ed world, especially for IT, works very well for some folks. You know, we have a great work-life balance. We have lots of flexibility. In a weird way, and coming from high-stress IT environments, what exists in higher ed is nowhere near the reality that exists in a lot of other industries. So there's that trade-off. But at the same time, some people really aren't, you know, they don't see themselves doing this for the long haul. And so they have to figure a path, not, you know, to get out. And then the flip side I also have here is people who've worked in higher ed for a long time and haven't maintained their skill set. And so the question, and that's some really candid discussions about, okay, let's be honest here. There's specific areas that have to be worked on in order for us to maintain sort of a baseline skill set that is needed to bring the institution forward. And, you know, what you learned in college in the 1980s isn't it. So,
yeah.
2 things just to add to what Stephen just said. I was on a call with a bunch of Michigan CIOs across different industries, and people are leaving they're getting increases from 40 to 300% in compensation, different industries as well. What's interesting though, is that some of them are coming back a few months later because of what you just said. It's not the same fit. It's not the same culture. They went for the paycheck and now they're coming back. And second, which higher ed can't compete with some of these other industries, healthcare and finance and so forth, and kind of pay equity, if you were to say, for the same position. Because I know plenty of positions in higher ed that are making 80 or 90, that are making $130 or $140 in different industries, right? But I think we need to do a better job collectively as an industry, as an area of focus, is to how do we properly cross-functionally train people and develop that internal talent? Because how many of you still have that one guy who does that enterprise service? And if that one guy is not available, oops, it's a problem. Who's going to do it? What do we do? And I think if we're building that culture of cross-functional training, it provides that opportunity to empower and support people in their careers and their paths. And one of them, I might have said this even in the last call, one of the memes that really stuck out to me is, I guess, different personality types, is a CEO and a CFO having a conversation about investing in people. And CFO says, what if we spend all this money, time, effort, and energy investing in people and they leave? And to which CEO responds, what if we don't and they stay? And I think we have a lot of that in higher ed, where certain people have developed certain skill sets a decade or two ago, which haven't kept up with the pace of change in the area that we actually work in.
Yeah, I've heard it put pretty bluntly occasionally that higher ed can be a jobs program, right? And
It's my line.
yes, it is. I didn't want to say who it was, Steve.
Good, that's good. Hey, Emil raised his hand
Yeah,
before.
I
Go
just
ahead,
wanted to
Emil.
chime in, and I think I wholeheartedly agree with Tim and Miloš. I think that being visible, talking, right? Those were the really big points that I took away from the first session, and that's just something across the board that I feel everyone should really just do, is just listen to and see what are people trying to do. My initial question really, and it's to go back to what's something that Steven just said, we can build the budgets, right? And we can lead the horse to water, but we can't make them drink it, right? How do we get the folks to raise their hands to say, yeah, hey, I am looking at this certification. I do want to look at this, because I feel that in across the institutions that I've been in and the people that I've talked to, they don't know what to look for, right? And sometimes it's something that we just think, it could be us as leaders to say, I think you should try this out, right? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It could also be discouraging if they took that test twice, Steve, right? And they failed it, and now you're looking at it like, do I really need you to take that third time? So I think that goes into the motivation, and I would love to hear about those levels of experience. How do we get them to raise their hands? How do we get them to come out, right? And tap some of that potential that's in there that we see that they might not.
Sure. I've got a few specific examples there. I don't want to forget this point, so I'll go back to second. One thing you said, Stephen, about you've got a budget there to pay for people's certifications. I wrap that up in the overall professional development budget. I think of that as professional development. So I'm not highlighting to the rest of the institution, hey, I'm paying to get all my people, these certifications, right? I am paying to make sure that our staff get professional development and keep up their skills. That's a much different story. So, but to Emil, your question, how do you do this? And Tom put it in the chat. How do you keep folks motivated? One thing that I've done is we have quarterly all division, all staff meetings, and once a year in one of those meetings, I remind people about professional development opportunities, and to reinforce the point. Right, I go through the different types of professional development that we might see, right? And so I say, who has done an on-campus group training class, right? That you and some of your peers have attended. We brought in a trainer, and you've done that. If you've done that, stand up. Who has done an online training class? If you have, stand up. Who's gone off to training? Stand up. Who's done a conference, virtual, stand up. Done a conference in person, stand up. Who's taken classes at the university where we have remitted and discounted your tuition so that you can advance your education? That's part of professional development. They don't think about it. Stand up. Okay. Now we look around the room and everybody's standing up. Right. Now have them sit down and say, okay, if you did not stand up at all, stand up. And now we highlights out, okay, who of the 100 or so people in the room, one or two didn't do any development. We say, I have failed you. I take that as my personal responsibility, as CIO, that you did not have the opportunity to do this. Let's meet up afterwards and talk about where we missed and what we can do to make sure that you get some training this year. That's one of the things that
Oh, sorry, Tim, please go ahead.
No, that was it. Just wrap it up. That's one of the things that I do to keep people motivated and let them know about professional development.
What I keep hearing in all of the different answers is like the personalized attention, and I get it totally. Even personally, I'm running a really large project at an R1 institution in the Boston area, and I feel like I have the ability to send a chat to any of the leadership team at any point and say, help me with X, Y, and Z. And they answer quite quickly. Other people in the same organization responsible for similar size projects don't do that. I don't know why they don't do that, but they don't do it. But it not only does it make a huge difference to how I feel personally in terms of loyalty to the organization, but also to the project itself. To the project itself, I feel that personalized attention. But anyway, does anyone else have any thoughts on this on this item? Anything that you heard that really resonated with you in terms of how to retain and recruit talent, or any other thoughts? How many are actually hiring from across the country, and allowing people to be fully remote? Yeah, Tim.
We are doing that, and we've also let some people who've been long-term Michiganders move to Florida and other states. It took some time. I had to, put my reputation on the line within HR first to say, look, I'll take this on. If this implodes, it's on me. How about we do this? Let's give this man a year and see if that works out. And if it doesn't, we can pull it back. And we'll be very honest and upfront with him and obviously his family so that everybody knows as they're making a major move in their life. And it's been several months now, and it's been great. It's been exceptional, and I think we're going to have some more opportunities. We also have another network engineer out in Arizona, so we have people in different states.
Yeah, that's significantly your choices, right? And also the range of salaries that you can pay, because obviously in some of the more rural areas you don't have to pay as much. I heard something interesting I was watching something with Elon Musk, and he said that they're constantly in a state of hiring. If they find someone that's really, really good, they find a place for them because they know they're going to be needed. I know that's probably a challenge in most higher ed institutions, but does anyone follow that kind of?
We are working on developing that. We have a new head of HR who joined us a few months ago. And the methodology or the principles are the same. You're always aware of and in search of top talent. And once you find them, if they're available now, you take them now and you figure out a way where you can put them in many cases. Now we can't scale that. We have 3,600 employees and 24,000 students in multiple locations. So it doesn't always scale. But top talent in certain areas where we think we can do better and we need to do better, we are open to make that a practice of ours. And we're having those conversations in the senior leadership team regularly. Actually, how do we proactively go out there and say, hey, if you know someone in your own circles, in your networks, who's really exceptional at X, make us aware of them. And then we'll see if there's an opportunity we can kind of reach out to them and say, hey, where are you now? And where would you like to be? And is there an opportunity where we can be part of that future? So we're having those conversations. It's not really a formalized policy or direction at this moment.
I have a follow-up question for you there, Miloš. How, as a public institution, how does that fit within the, well, for us at least, requirement to have equal opportunity and avoiding nepotism and just hiring your buddy and legitimately having posting for positions and making it available?
We still have to follow all of those, and we follow all of those processes and protocols. I regularly get emails to approve a hiring because a spouse of an IT employee is being hired in enrollment, right? Is there a conflict? Is there a nepotism? Both me and VP of enrollment have to approve it and so forth. But the question, the point is, don't just post a job, because that's an old archaic model.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
post a job. Don't post a job on an HR website and call it a day. In today's world of noise and too much information and too much nonsense and too many people just reading headlines, no one's going to see it. So if you know the right person, just alert them that there is this funnel that they can enter and go through. And they may not work out, but make them aware. So it's more about building awareness of possibilities, top talent, and looking for joint opportunities. But it's not, hey, I like Tim. Tim, what do you need? What's your starting salary? You're looking for X? Cool. Can you start on Monday? We obviously cannot do that.
I think Elon Musk does do that.
Well, he can. He can. When you're the founder, you can.
And when you have all the money that he has.
I'll say
Yeah.
the money is a big portion there too.
Yeah.
So in terms of retaining, recruiting, skill set, training, anything, any other points from anyone or any questions?
Something Tim said earlier, which is I think true, and I didn't realize this as much as until I had some conversations. There are some people on my staff that really didn't understand sort of the non-master's degree, sort of where their path was, or what sort of sequence of certifications might be meaningful in a career path. And so that required a little education on my part. One of the other stupid things that we do, and I use the word stupid, it's like stupid pet tricks, stupid. When you pass one of these certifications, you get a certificate. And so I buy them the frame to hang the certificate on the wall. So everybody, you walk into some offices, there's like 6 certificates on the wall. And it's just like, it's sort of like the merit badges or whatever it is in Scouts. It's like, it's sort of a acknowledgement of an accomplishment, which is, as $10 is worth the value of the picture frame to do that. So.
So one other thing related to retention that we do is career planning, right? And so, especially in smaller institutions, it's often very ad hoc how we do promotions or raises other than the regular annual cycle, right? Somebody's threatening to leave, so you figure out how to give them a raise. Well, that's very reactive. And so we've started a model now where we can be proactive with everybody. That starts off, and it's built into the annual performance evaluations. But we talk about, career planning and, what are individuals' aspirations and goals. And then we can look at the very specific job levels and career paths that we have at the institution. And we can say, okay, if you're classified as, say, professional level 2, promotion for you would be to P3. What does that mean? And here's, on paper, the difference between what a P2 and a P3 is. And, we can move you towards this P3. And in order for you to do this, I need to see, you taking on these 3 projects, be successful, in this one, this way, interact with these other organizations across campus. You'll give them very specific tasks and targets that they can do. And so it's not just you give me a lot more to do, I need a raise or I need a promotion, but it ties with the business needs of the institution along with their personal goals with their planning and evaluation. And when it's on paper and they can see, if I do these things, then I will be a candidate for a promotion to the next level. And having that explicitly on paper removes a lot of the black box mystery that a lot of organizations just don't have.
I think it's a good path to follow. I don't think it's always black and white though. You can have people who might check off the boxes, but they're not qualified. They don't have something else.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Leadership capabilities, because I would be very careful with that path being entirely explicit. Because I can come to you as your employee and go, "You told me to do 7 hops. I did 7 hops. What's up? Where am I going next?"
Yeah, no, I agree. And so it's obviously more nuanced than a 30-second conversation here. It's the other thing that we've done is defined clearly the difference between professional advancement and management advancement, right? In the old school traditional model, if you wanted to advance or get a role, I had to go into management. If I wanted to raise, I had to go into management. But what I found and saw, looking back at what happened before I got here, is you often took your best, highly performing professionals and you put them into management. And then now you lost a great professional and you ended up with a really crappy manager. And it's like, that's dumb. Okay. Why not promote this person, keep them in a professional role, pay them more. And now you might be in a situation where you've got a manager that has professionals working for them, that those professionals are getting paid more than the manager. And you know what? That's okay. And I have that situation now, and it takes the right people in those roles. It takes the right culture. It takes the right expectation, and setting those expectations all the way along the way, that you have individuals that have different skill sets and capabilities that meet the organizational needs. And because of that, we pay for that.
Yeah. I think Chris had a question earlier in the chat. Chris, did you want to ask your question?
Sure. I was curious how you and your organization celebrate your team's successes, and if you find that sort of thing has any positive impact on retention.
Tim, did you want to address that one?
I'm going to give Miloš a chance to go first, since I just finished up. If you want to go first, otherwise.
Sure.
I think it's a combination of things. There are milestone and markers, in which I don't think we do this well. I really don't. I don't think we celebrate successes enough, and we need to be a little bit more intentional, a lot more intentional about how we proceed. We had on September 27th, we had an all division breakfast. It lasted a couple of hours here at Grand Valley. University president showed up. University presidents most of the time they show up, they give their 5-minute, 7-minute spiel, and they leave. She stayed there. She stayed there almost the entire time and talked to people and engaged. First of all, she's that kind of leader. Second of all, I went to her a month in advance and said, here's what I need you to do, right? They see me all the time. They need to see you. They need to hear from you. And she goes, so when I'm giving my speech, what do you want me to say? So I said, I want you to tie how their contributions and their work and their efforts are actually enabling the future of this university, how they're actually helping students, faculty, and staff. Instead of you're here as a transactional back office, right? Every time somebody equates technologists to plumbers, I have another vein that bursts in my head, right? If you're still thinking that way, you probably shouldn't be in this business, right? So we've done that. We've done a number of other events where everybody comes together. We had a couple of things in August outside with different games and events. There was no agenda. There was no speech by anyone. There was no protocol. It's just come in, spend time, and hang out. So those are the kind of mile markers and events and recognition of each other. But what I think is really more important is support and investment in them. And one of the things I think Emil wrote in the chat was human touch, is on an ongoing daily or weekly basis. As you walk down the hallway, just stop into the office and find out what's going on, what do they need, and how are they doing it. Thank them. Yeah, I heard that this is what you did on this project, on this call last week or 2 weeks ago. I just want to thank you for contributing and leading forward. It's remarkable it is remarkable what you get from the same person once they feel like they have been heard and they're being appreciated, as opposed to when they're not. Same person, same skill set, same hours, same office, same capabilities. So, and then also what's really important is building that culture that it's not just you. I expect all my senior leaders to be that way. They expect all of their directors to be that way. It needs to be a culture. We're all together on the same team. No one is more important than the other. We just happen to play different roles, or we're a team. So we either sink or swim, but we do it together.
Yeah, I think everything you said there is spot on. Other little things that we've done is we created a kudos channel in our Slack. So when we get notifications, like I get things all the time from around campus, just thanking me for this person's involvement, right? So I copy and paste that email message and I put it in the Slack channel. so that the entire organization sees what this person did and how they were recognized. So little things like that. We have a monthly or irregular news brief that goes out. We also put those recognitions and kudos recognitions in that. Obviously, if anybody completes some type of degree or certificate, we also share that and celebrate those little successes. We have an annual meeting with the chancellor, just boom, come and meet and greet. So very similar to what you talked about, with your president there, Miloš. Talk to him beforehand about, okay, what do you want to say? What's good, and making sure that they tie the success of the institution with the daily actions that the individuals are contributing to the organization, and he can call out people by name and say, hey, I know you did this, I know you did this, I know you did this, to making a really big deal about little things. So for example, part of our sustainability efforts, we've got some honeybees that we're put around, and so we put up cameras, a bee cam, so that you can watch this. Well, those bee cams got spread on social media and LinkedIn and everything else, and the people in IT that did this got a little bit of recognition, knowing that, hey, I was part of that, and the chancellor knows that it was me who thought it was that idea. And those things that you tie an individual through executive leadership across the university make a huge difference. So those are some of the things that we do for recognition university wide as well. Very similar to what you said there. And I hope many of you are doing the same thing.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Miloš. And Miloš just shared a link to some of the things that he's done in terms of recognizing folks and the various awards that each person has gotten. It's a nice way to do it. There was another CIO that we were talking to who also who goes even a step further and turns some of that into a brochure, not just for individual people within the organization, but also the IT achievements overall. There's an online brochure that they have, and then there's an actual physical brochure. And at especially the big meetings, they drop it off with the president. Hey, here's some of the things that we've been doing. Here's some of the people we've been recognizing. So, we are actually getting close to the end of the hour. We will have to continue the conversation on the other two subjects, automation and audit awareness, the next time. But if there was actually one question in terms of staffing and recruitment. Is anyone recruiting from outside the country? No. There are probably some limitations to that. I mean, I'm sure you can do that for outsourcing from a contract perspective, but not for staff.
We are not, but there is one of our colleges has a person that joined them recently as a developer from India, and they've made all of these arrangements, and they've been here for a few months. And I've recently, again, this is all to be explored, but now they're saying that they're reimagining their direction and strategy. And hey, would you want this developer to join IT? So now that's a whole different conversation that we need to have internally. So, but historically, no. Some managed services agreements, sure, but not as in place.
Yeah. And this particular person, Miloš, would be an employee potentially?
Yes. Yeah.
And working remotely completely from
they're actually here currently.
I see.
So I'm still trying to get a full understanding of, is it part-time where they're outside or they're coming in and they're going back out?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of murkiness there coming from one of our colleges. Well-intentioned, from what I can see by the resume and CV, very capable individual. I just don't know where that placement on the strategy and the map is at this moment.
Yeah. It's an unusual arrangement. but who knows? Who knows where it's going to go in the future? Tim, I apologize. I think I interrupted you.
Yeah, no problem. I don't know if this is a public-private institution difference or different states, but I know here within the Purdue system, it's generally not supported to try to sponsor international employees to come in and pay for their whether it's an H-1B or other visas. They're just I've heard of it happening, but it is the extremely rare exception rather than, oh yeah, we have a process to do that. It's really shot down from HR, discouraging it. And we've had a couple of international people that we interviewed and they said, oh, but I need you to sponsor my visa. And that just shuts everything down. It's really discouraging.
I think a lot of the state laws have a lot of influence, because I know when I was in Jersey, it was not an option.
Yeah,
it was not an option, and you had a list of things that you can get and buy and so forth, and you have to go with the lowest bid and so on. And Michigan has been a little bit more accommodating, but I'm now trying to figure out how far I can actually push that legally.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any experience in that area? No. Michael, were you raising your hand, Michael?
Well, yeah, I have lots of experience hiring internationally, but it's on the academic side, and I would guess in all of your schools that on the academic side they do hire internationally, and then you fight with HR or the provost or somebody about whether you're gonna how well you're going to support that candidate's or that now employee's effort to gain the appropriate visa or green card or whatever.
So maybe
I think it just boils down to HR in a lot of cases being unwilling to take on the overhead of staff where they don't really have a choice on the faculty side. Let's be blunt.
Yeah. We always are able to argue that absolutely the best candidate available is this one from China, Israel, Mongolia, Russia, wherever. They never hired a Russian.
So maybe the workaround is to hire the academician and then bring them into IT. How's that?
Okay, Miloš, that's your strategy.
While I'm a fan of shared governance, there are areas that shall not overlap. This may be one of them, because otherwise you'll find your whole IT ran by University Senate governance overnight.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother conversation.
Definitely a different conversation.
Yeah.
Everyone, I'd like to say thank you all for joining as usual. Hopefully it was an interesting conversation and you learned something. Again, if we can help in any way in terms of connections, if you have a particular topic that you'd like us to do this around, don't hesitate to reach out. If we're here to help. We support the CIO community as much as we can. I did forget to introduce myself to those who don't know me. My name is Nuno Couto, and I'm the founder of Optimal Campus Consulting. We, as you can tell, never try to sell anything during these conversations, and we urge others not to do the same, just in case they're from other consulting companies. So thank you for those who may be here for not attempting to sell anything. We are planning to consolidate a lot of the feedback that we've received in this and the last, and obviously now we'll have a follow-up because we didn't get to everything. We are planning to consolidate all of this feedback and even some of the things we've heard from other people and present it at a separate conversation. We'll let everyone know when that happens, but it was going to happen in January, but I think we'll wait until we finish this, the next couple of topics. Let's see, any other things here? I think that's all I've got on my notes. Anything else from any of the other committee members or anyone in the group?
I mean, I think it's just important to mention that we are going to be skipping December. We'll be coming back for our regular monthly scheduled virtual meetups in January. And presumably that will be continuing this conversation, this time touching on automation and audit awareness. As I mentioned before, I'll also be sending out that questionnaire. So if you folks have a couple minutes and you want to let us know how we did, or if you have any suggestions for future topics to be discussed at another virtual meetup, then please let us know. Otherwise, really appreciate everyone showing up, and we're looking forward to speaking with you all soon.
I just placed my email in the chat, and Tom's email as well. If you need anything, just let us know. We're here to help. All right. Take care, everybody. Good to see you all. Bye-bye. And thank you, Miloš. Thank you especially to Miloš and Tim for joining us and giving us your insights. Take care.
Have a wonderful day.